sour. Ooh, mercy. Let me check my tuning. Checking it with my Snark electronic tuner, about a $10 investment, maybe a little less. And I'm going to show you a different way of tuning more by ear. We'll talk about the equipment, about tuners, and about another piece of equipment that you want to get, which is a tuning fork, a 440 tuning fork. And I've had this for decades. I think I spent maybe $6 on it. I don't know how much they are now, but A440 is a standard, and that's what I recommend. And so you can hit it and check it on the pickup of your guitar, or if it's an acoustic guitar, you can put it on the bridge and it'll sound pretty loud, or you can just put it up to your ear. And so that you can hear it, I'm putting it on the pickup. Oops, try to get. And checking. I'm just kind of pressing the 5th fret of the 1st string and then plucking it with my 3rd finger. Kind of like you're doing a pull off or something, but it's not really a pull off. You're just plucking. Okay, so you want to get that in tune first, and then you want to check each string, one string to another. The 1st string, which is the one closest to the floor, that's our 1st string, and we're checking it with the 5th fret of the 2nd string, hitting them together separately and then together. And then we're going to check the same 2 strings, just hitting them open. And that's an interval called a perfect 4th. So we're hitting a perfect unison. Another name is perfect prime. And then hitting them separately and then together. And then hitting open strings. And then checking the unison again. So that's kind of the procedure. And let me just go through that. I'm going to start with the tuning fork one more time and just go through all 6 strings as if, I were just tuning them by ear with the tuning fork. Okay, so that's the method I recommend for tuning with unisons and fourths. And then there's one other interval, and that's a major third, and that's the interval between the 3rd and the 2nd string. That's a major third. Now, I should talk a little bit, if you don't know what I mean by a fourth or a unison or an octave. Those are intervals. Intervals are the distance between two notes, and we're just putting a name on it. So when you're hearing the same two singers singing the same note, they're singing in unison, and or it could be two violinists playing the same note, and then we call it a perfect unison. And then if you play the two open strings of the first or the second to the first string, that's a perfect fourth. It kind of sounds like the wedding march, right? Here comes the bride, right? So that's an easy way to remember a perfect fourth. And it's kind of a pure interval. And why do we call it perfect? Well, it goes way back to the Renaissance or even the medieval period, where they put names on these notes. It might go back further than that, like to ancient Greece. I'm not sure, but I'm not like a scholar on music acoustics. So if I say something that's like wrong, please check me on that. You're welcome to fact check me. Like you would Trump, like they do Trump. But anyway, so you have perfect unisons. Now octaves, which is like if you play a C major scale. Sorry, I'm having a bad day here. I can't even play a scale. So C to C is a perfect octave. And then this is a perfect unison, E to E. So, and then fourths are perfect. Often monks in medieval times would sing, the monks in the monasteries would sing in perfect fourths. Or they would sing in perfect fifths. That's another, like if you invert a fourth, and put the high note of a fourth down an octave, like the high note here. If I put that down an octave lower and I play this the same, those are perfect fifths. So fifths and fourths are related in that they invert. One inverts, if you take a fifth and you put that low note up an octave, you've got a fourth. Same two notes, E and B, or B and E. And that I don't want to get into that too much, but perfect intervals are unisons, octaves, fifths, and fourths. And the other intervals are major, minor. And you would not be able to have a major fourth or a minor fifth. Now you can do like with a fifth, that's a fifth from E to up to B. And if I make the high note one half step lower, that's a diminished fifth. And actually the medieval monks would not sing in a diminished fifth. It was considered a diabolical interval. It's like in heavy metal even, it's like, it's kind of diabolical sounding, it's kind of dissonant, and it was considered, I think, like the devil's interval or something. You would avoid diminished fifths or augmented fourths. Like if I go E to A, that's a perfect fourth, but if I sharp the A, that's an augmented fourth. Now if I do a diminished fourth, that's a fourth again, and I flat the top note, it sounds the same as a major third, but it's a diminished fourth if it's notated as a fourth on standard music notation. So that's getting into some technical things, and I don't want to get into that, but perfect intervals cannot be major or minor. And then you have the other intervals that are major and minor, and that would be seconds, thirds, sixths, and sevenths. And I'm just giving you that info. You don't have to worry about it right now, but understand what we're doing. We're tuning in unisons and perfect fourths. Now the reason why we need to hear the fourths is because often when we're tuning, say if I'm sharp there, like, that's not right, like, I know it's sharp, and that's another thing. You want to make sure you know which string, if you're checking the unisons, you need to know which string is the one that's out of tune, because you could be turning the wrong string. You could be thinking, oh, this one's flat, but actually this one's sharp. There are ways to do that, and you want to, just go over the whole guitar and make sure that usually it's just going to be one or two strings out of tune, and you can figure it out. It's not going to be way out of whack like I did in the beginning of this video. That was staged, okay? Obviously, So anyway, this is sharp. Now what I suggest is to detune it to where it's flat, like, and tune it up to the perfect fourth. Because see, you cannot be pressing this and then turning the tuners at the same time. I have seen people do that with the other hand, but I don't even want to reach that far, okay? So I would check it with the unisons. That's still a little off. But when you're turning the tuning keys, you want to listen, and that's another thing. You don't want to just turn the tuning keys without sounding a string, as if you just somehow magically know how much to turn it to get it in tune. That does not work. That is not a good method. You have to sound the strings. And if you get to know, like, here comes the bride, get to know that, the sound of a fourth, and then check it again with the unison. That's pretty close. Another thing is, you notice I said I was, it was sharp, like I'm going to sharp it again, like it's really off. And now I'm going to tune it down below where it should be. It's better, I think, to tune up to a note than to tune down to a note. So if your note, it's sharp, you think, well, I'll tune it down. But in some guitars, it's sort of like, do you want to tighten a screw or do you want to loosen a screw? And if you loosen a screw, it could slip a little bit more. So if you tune it down, on some guitars, it might slip a little bit more. So plus in your ear training, it's always good to be consistent in the way you tune. So you're not tuning 2 or 3 different ways, like sometimes tuning down, sometimes like from a sharp note, like, or up, other times. So if I find that a note is sharp, I'll detune it to where it's a little too low and then tune it up, like tightening a screw. Plus, my ear is used to tuning up to a note, so it's good practice to practice it the same way all the time. Now that's a little bit sharp. Sometimes you can pull the string and it'll, again, kind of like loosening a screw. That didn't work, so it's still a little flat. And there, when it was flat, just a tiny bit, I was bending the string to tell if it was sharp or flat. Sometimes when they're really close, it's hard to tell which one's sharp and which one's flat. And it's always, you know, kind of a good idea to pull the string a little bit. Violinists do that. You know, it's just, you know, just to kind of make sure the string is settled a little bit. So always never turn the tuners without hearing the string. You want to hear the note changing. And another thing, you want to be able to, you don't want to turn them too slowly. Like again, if it's flat and you're turning it just a little teeny bit at a time. Do you hear it changing? I don't hear it changing. You have to do that, right? Hear it. And I didn't know that, you know, like I had been playing guitar. Well, I played bass when I was 12, and then I picked up guitar when I was about 15. And I was in a band, and I was one of 2 lead guitar players. The other guy was better than me, so he got to play more leads than I did, you know. So, and I was a little bit frustrated by that, but they still respected me as, you know, because I'd been playing longer than all of the other people in the band. So anyway, the bass player, his name was Tom Poole, beautiful guy, sweet guy. He showed me once how to tune, and he was just talking to me, and he was just tuning up his acoustic guitar, and I heard him just go like that, and I could hear the fourths homogenizing and crisscrossing and getting right in tune. And I thought, that's how you do it. You turn it up so you can hear it going up to the note. And that's why you don't want to turn the tuners too slowly, because then you get into a tuning fit. Plus it takes you forever to get it up to the note. I mean, you could, you know, but I think a lot of beginners, I see them doing that, and I think they're afraid to turn the tuners, especially when they're in front of me and I'm trying to get them to tune on their own, and they'll just tune like, and you don't hear anything, but you want to, that's another way you can check you can play the note on the next string and then try to hear it coming up to that. I can still. Talking about, and I don't think I've talked about this, what a fourth and a unison is. A unison is like 2 people singing together, pretty straightforward. But a fourth, if you played a major scale, like a C major scale, C, D, E, F, G, A, B, C, and you go just to 4 notes, C, D, E, F, and you play those 2 notes together again. Remember, here comes the bride, and that's a perfect fourth. Now, when you're tuning, you know, we're working with the open strings. If you play the first 4 notes of a major scale on the length of a string, like if I'm going, you know, checking the first string, I'm hitting the open, the 2nd fret, the 4th fret, and the 5th fret. And I can finger it like this with finger 1, 3, and 4. 0, 2, 4, 5. And that would be the first 4 notes of a major scale. So we're checking the fourths between the 2nd and the 1st string. It would be like the 2nd string. Still didn't quite sound right to me, but Now, we're doing all fourths except the second to the third string. So when you check the third and the second string, that's not a perfect fourth. That's called a major third. And a major third is like not quite going up to the fourth tone. Like if you went to a fourth, it would be G, A, B, C. And we're checking the B string, so we're going G, A, B. And it's kind of like, you know, if you went the other way, three blind mice, do, 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 you know, and so that's a major third. So the basic procedure, you're hitting a unison and then checking the perfect fourth. And if they need tuning, you'll tune up to it. And then check it again. And then, or unison first, because you'll usually hear if it's out of tune, and then check the open string, and then keep hearing that Here Comes the Bride, right? The wedding march. And I should mention, you know, like some players, they'll just hit the open strings. If you hear all the open strings, it's kind of a complex chord. It's hard to name that chord, what all the open strings of the guitar makes. And this tuning of the guitar has evolved over centuries. And basically you want the sixth string and the first string to be octaves of the same note. You know, it would be hard to play chords if they were not. And so what I was going to say is when you think of the great Jimi Hendrix, rock guitarist, great artist, and rock innovator in rock guitar, the way he would tune is that after a song was over, he would just go and check it by ear like that. And you would think, well, how did he do that? How does he know if it's in tune? And he might do that. And if it's in tune or if it's out of tune a little bit. Now listen, I'm going to purposely pull it out of tune. So that's kind of sour, you know. And so he would check it. And he would do that in between songs, and then he would talk into the microphone. This one's dedicated to all the soldiers in Vietnam, and you know, it is a lot of, you know, his talking into the microphone. He would be checking his tuning at the same time. So you get used to that. Like if I tune my third string sharp purposely, you can tell that's not quite right, right? So you check the fourths. Okay, so that's a little bit about, you know, tuning by ear. You don't want to turn too slowly. You want to always tune up to the note. You want to always listen when you're turning the tuning keys. Don't just turn them, you know. You might be anxious and think, oh, I got to turn the tuning keys, but you got to sound the strings first. And then just talking a little bit about the electronic tuners. And I don't think I really got into it, but the Snark is really a really affordable tuner, and I just get the cheapest one. When I bought them, you know, like 6 or 8 years ago, I think they were about $8.95 on Amazon. Sometimes if you go to the music store, they're going to charge you the full price retail price, but usually you get a better deal maybe on Amazon. They also have a Cadillac model that is supposed to be a little better, but I just get the cheapest one because I've got 6 or 8 of them. Some, like on this guitar, I might keep it on the guitar when I put it in the case. And another thing about these tuners, the batteries don't last very long if you have them on all the time. You want to have them on only when you're tuning. And you can see, I don't know if you can see it, but like maybe if I put it like this, maybe you can see it. If it's right in the middle, where it's kind of a bluish, greenish, then it's in tune. And if it's sharp, it'll go into the yellow, and if it's flat, it'll be in the red. So if it's straight up in the middle, right in, then it's in tune. And that way you can tune it visually with the electronic tuner. It's kind of like, do I want to tune by ear or do I want to tune it visually? Sometimes if I'm on stage, I'll do it visually with the, it's like, do you want to take an elevator or do you want to go up the stairs? I mean, you should be able to go up the stairs and you should be able to tune by ear with a tuning fork, but sometimes the electronic tuner will get to you faster, and then sometimes it's a good way to check after you've done it by ear. So another thing about the Snark that you can do visually is to help your ear, train your ear to hear pitches. And I put it on the headstock of the guitar. That's a little flat. Now, if I check the 3rd string at the 4th fret, it's pretty much right on there. Now, if I want to develop my ear a little bit, and that's the thing where you turn and you hear the note coming up to pitch, I'll hit the 3rd string at the 4th fret, and that's a B, and then I'll take the open B, I'll purposely detune it, and then I'll check it, purposely detune it again. So I'm listening to the note, B. I've got it in my head, and then I try to remember that pitch. And I bring it up to that note to where I can hear it go, like right up to it, and then I'll recheck it. But to double check it, I mean, you could just take just the open B and look at your Snark tuner and practice bringing it up to pitch to where it's right in the center. That bluish green band means it's right in tune. Like, do that several times. Okay, now when you're detuning your string a lot and tuning it up, it's going to settle after about a minute, and it might need tuning again. That's one thing that a lot of people don't know, or they might know and maybe they don't. Like if you tune to drop D, where you're tuning the E string, to where it's an octave lower than this D. And if I get it where I think it's perfectly in tune, and then I start a song, and about a minute into the song, I realize that it's no longer in tune. So when you tune a note down like that, and I'm tuning down like 2 frets, like a whole step, it will settle back up a little bit. And if you tune it up, like if I tune it back up to E, I'm checking it with the open E 1st string, Then if I start a song with it tuned up again, after it's just been tuned down for 5 minutes, then it will settle flat. It'll go back to being a little bit flat after about a minute. So sometimes pulling the string or tuning it way too low and then tuning it up, will help a little bit. But you have to recheck it. So, if you're on stage, then you should talk to the audience for at least a minute, and then check your tuning again, tell a story, tell a funny story,